Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Debrief here on the Blood Red channel. I'm your host, Edward Kay. Joining me today is Stephen Killen, and we're coming to you following yet another 3-1 win for Liverpool. This time it was over Leicester City in the Carabao Cup at Anfield. Liverpool going a goal down early once again, but I mean, not really going to dwell on that goal too much because while it might have been a bit of a mistake from Tsimikas, couldn't really get a good enough replay to see if he'd actually been trod on or what, or if he'd just gone down to try and save a bit of face maybe. But Liverpool dominated after that early goal, didn't they? And never really looked back, which has been a feature of a fair few of their comebacks this season. Do you think they've got to, with tonight especially, you've got to bear the quality of the opposition in mind, Steve, or do you think it goes down as one of the better comeback wins this season?
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really, isn't it? I think you can put the probably sluggish start to the amount of change made. It was 10, wasn't it, with Jones keeping his place in the team? But I think it's one of them goals where it was isolated, wasn't it, where he is trod on and he's left in a heap, and obviously there is no VAR in the Carabao Cup, so it probably could have probably looking at Keller a bit to come out and maybe smother a bit more. But it's one of them things. I think it was the only glove he landed on Liverpool throughout the whole 90 minutes, and I think Liverpool defended well and kept a lot of their threats nullified. Because I think McAteer was the only really outsource, especially down that right, which is obviously pretty unconventional with Curtis Jones, but he played it well. And I think with Liverpool coming from behind, it could have easily been 4, 5, 6, 7 with the way the chances he created and the amount of times Leicester cleared it off the line, even in the first half and even later on when Harvey Elliott was denied by Cody again.
Yeah, McAteer and Jones had quite a battle, to be fair, throughout the game. And Jones obviously stepping in as skipper for the evening and playing in that inverted full-back role. I mean, the Trent role, I think we all just call it now. What did you think to his performance tonight? Because I thought initially I was a bit concerned that, he's probably the third person we've had other than Trent playing in that role now. Jurgen Klopp doesn't really seem to have settled on who he wants, but I thought Curtis Jones was pretty solid there in the end. What about you?
Yeah, I think you can't really have too many arguments about how he performed there. But I think a lot of the selection was down to with Saturday in mind with Spurs on the horizon, because I don't think you want to be putting Joe Gomez there on a Wednesday night in the Carabao Cup against the Championship opposition. But he done well. It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't it's not the Trent role, isn't it? So a lot of the time he was coming into the middle, and I think, as we've seen, was become fabric of Liverpool now, where the defence obviously shuffle over and becomes like a back three. I think we've seen Canate filtering in on that right side. But I think for Jones, it's just it's more minutes in the legs. There's more chance for him to sort of get up to match fitness and just enjoy that a bit more of a role in the team. And especially when you captain your boy up club, I think he's going to come out of Anfield tonight with about 6 feet taller.
Yeah, I think besides Jones, who was probably, the person I was most intrigued to see once the team news came out. Obviously, Cody Gakpo, I thought, coming into the game, I thought he needed a good performance, not necessarily because he's done anything wrong so far this season, but obviously he's the one attacking option you'd say has not really cemented his place in the side so far this season. And you maybe wouldn't have expected that coming out of pre-season, but obviously he played those first 2 games out of position. Obviously, Klopp does insist that he can play that left-sided number 8 role, but I don't think it's where he wants to be playing. I'm not sure it's where Jurgen Klopp would prefer to be using him. But tonight, obviously, gets that equaliser. And was that just another reminder for Klopp that he's another real option up top?
Definitely, and he offers something else. I think we've seen towards the back end of last season with Firmino in there. He basically shadowed him for the best part of January to May. I think with Liverpool, you've got another option there, another sort of dimension you can tap into when against teams who are playing that deep block, where they can come short and sort of pull players out and let the midfield and the other two wide players slide in behind. But I think even from his goal aside, I think he was one of them players that could have had a bag full himself. But just touching upon his goal, I think a notable mention has to go to Gravenberch. Obviously, he takes on 2. The feint sent Chelsea for the echo, really, didn't it? So, and it's just this touch, turn, and bottom corner finish. I don't think you can ask much more of a striker like that. And I think we're starting to see a lot more of Gakpo getting in them areas. And when he nestles him like that, you've got another bona fide option up front, which for Klopp, I'm sure it's a welcome headache.
Yeah, and it was another start for Wataru Endo. I think everybody was probably expecting him to get the nod in that number 6 position, having not started the last game with McAllister obviously starting there. I mean, didn't think he necessarily had the best start to the game, but sort of settled and had a pretty decent second half in the end, really, and overall a pretty decent performance. And do you think he's just still sort of finding his feet at Liverpool, still settling in?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've seen a lot of shades with Fabinho there. I think at times in the first half, Endo sort of got caught, maybe a bit too passive. Him and Simicast was sort of getting the crowd a bit disgruntled where he got time on the ball and he chose not to turn. He passed it back and sort of killed a slight bit of momentum. But I think in that second half he was formidable. He sort of, I think he might have got booked. I think he was unlucky to get booked. It looked a pretty good tackle from where I was sat. But he's playing that, especially in the second half. He played that number 6 role impeccably well. As them sort of games, maybe against the likes of Leicester, who got a bit more rough around the edge, a bit more rugged, he can sort of soften his game a bit more and sort of acclimatise to his game a lot better. And I think it was a different type of game for him where he's not going to be pressed consistently, but it was one of them where he could sort of show his skills. And even in the first half, he may not have done the groundwork as much, but you could see he was always clipping out wide to Endo, who another player we might come on to shortly, but he was always getting him into the game. And second half, well, you can sort of claim the world's best assist with that Szoboszlai goal, but yeah, I think he's done himself no damage for his selection options, and I think for Klopp as well, it's another headache, because I think what we're seeing now is the front 6 now, with everyone's battling for each game, and if someone has a slightly better game than the one previously, they're going to be in for a shout for a starting place at the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's almost reaching a point where it's we'll take the 3 who scored in the previous game and we'll start them. But yeah, you mentioned Ben Doak there. We'll come on to him now. I mean, just wanted to get your thoughts on his performance. Obviously, sort of expecting him to make the right flank his own now in these cup competitions, especially the Carabao Cup and obviously the Europa League, as we saw him play against Lask. But I mean, a typical performance, sort of what we're used to seeing from him, really, wasn't it? You know, every time he gets the ball, he's sort of turning and facing his man, wants to take him on, beat him, put some really good balls into the box. Maybe should have scored when he hit the bar, but I mean, sort of did the right thing in trying to go high over the keeper who had gone low. Maybe just a bit unlucky there. But what did you think to his performance on the night?
Yeah, I think like you said there, that last game was very much a learning curve for me. He admitted it himself in one of his post-match comments. It was one of them performances where he just doesn't look out of place. I think we've seen on a podcast this week that we've released, Liverpool haven't got a young squad to put out anymore. They've got options to give minutes to. I think Doak, he's not, obviously you can't really oust Mohamed Salah from the squad, but he was a joy to watch. He was, even at times with Liverpool were quite slack in the first half, he was the one that was like getting it up and going. And then I think James Justin probably be having nightmares about him tonight, because the way he played was just absolutely phenomenal. He was unlucky not to score, and he was even more unlucky not to get 1 or 2 assists. He's just even playing outside of the boot flicks in the box and no one's there. You don't expect it from a 17-year-old. I think we need to reiterate that he's only 17. The ceiling's going higher and higher by the game, and he's an absolute joy to watch. And Liverpool should be counting the lucky stars that they managed to get him at this early age. And you want him to be playing these games and possibly maybe get him a bit more sharper in the Premier League as well, because he's probably doing him a disservice if you're not giving him the minutes he deserves. And he offers something a little bit different. He maybe tries to beat his defender 1 or 2 many times, but he's always got that spark. And watching him tonight was a joy to watch. It was not on the same level of Mohamed Salah, but I think you come away from it thinking this kid's a player.
Yeah, and another great performance from him. But around the 65th minute mark, I think it was certainly the 2 players I wanted to see come off the bench. I imagine a lot of people would agree with that. Szoboszlai and Núñez, everybody obviously sees them warming up, the Núñez chance begin. And I mean, maybe was expecting Núñez to be the one having the impact and getting the goal. But I mean, we've left it long enough, 9 minutes somehow, without talking about Szoboszlai's goal. And we were saying before we started this podcast, I mean, I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody hit a football that hard. Have you?
No, I don't think so. And I think he was sort of cranking that up a few minutes early, and then he gets invited to shoot like that. I think more and more teams are going to become quite scared of him, because I don't think I've said it to you before we started. I don't think I've seen a better goal than that. Just the way it left his foot, it was going in as soon as he hit it, and then off the bar, you don't really get much better than that. And I think got to note as well, it's his first goal in front of the Cop, and I don't think you can score many better than this. And then I said to Pat in one of the earlier shows that I've done, there's a fan club growing, and I don't think the members are going to stop anytime soon. He's just a joy to watch, and maybe slightly rusty coming off the bench, but it's expected. But I think 5 minutes after he came on, he goes and just cracks one in top corner. It's absolutely, like I said, he's an absolute joy to watch. And for Szoboszlai, and it's just, I'm sort of running out of ways to describe him. I think we have found our very own Steven Gerrard, haven't we?
Yeah, it just looks better and better every time you watch him. I mean, as soon as that goal goes in, it was just he just hit it so well. I mean, yeah, like you're saying, not seeing many better goals than that, and I'm not sure you will all season. But obviously, the third and final goal, Jota getting another goal in the penalty area again, just manages to find himself in acres of space in the penalty area at least once or twice a game somehow, and a great finish. And I mean, we've seen a few of those finishes now since the start of last season. Obviously, Núñez had the one against Fulham where it looked like it might have got a deflection. Then he had the much cleaner one against Real Madrid before it all went wrong in that game at Anfield. Now that one from Diogo Jota. But I mean, as good of a finish as it was, I think the standout thing from that goal was Jarell Quansah coming up from centre-back and getting the assist. And I thought he was great all night. So I think he really deserved that one, didn't he?
Yeah, and I don't think you really expect your defenders to get assists. But even in the build-up to that, it was a loose ball in midfield. And I think Harvey Elliott made a decent sliding tackle, which knocked it into that side of the pitch. And I think Jarell Quansah just held off his man just enough to maybe avoid getting penalised for it. But I think you don't really expect back heel finishes like that. But even more so, it's just so pleasing on the eye just to see it trickle in off the post. But Quansah and Konate were both formidable at the back. They don't look out of place. They don't know each other. It's a credit to what Jurgen Klopp and his coaching staff are doing, where they don't look like they're just from the streets, as what Klopp said a few weeks ago, where they look like they just came off the car park. But even Quansah's coming back, and maybe had a slight lapse in concentration midway through this, maybe first half, where Liverpool got back and defended it. But he's another one that Liverpool are getting the numbers, and they're getting the young players, they're giving them opportunities, and they're definitely not doing it a disservice.
Yeah, and it showed a lot of maturity to sort of not see the game out at the end, because obviously they ended up going and finishing it off rather than just leaving it out at 2-1. But yeah, showing experience to sort of guide the game towards that finish. And I mean, we'll just finish with a word on this cup and potentially the other cups, the FA Cup and the Europa League in particular. I mean, do you think Liverpool are looking like, particularly in those attacking areas and in midfield now more so definitely than last season, they've got the depth and the quality in depth for some really deep cup runs once again this season?
I think it has to be. A club like Liverpool shouldn't be looking to sort of exit as early as they can to focus on one competition or the other. I think Jurgen Klopp sort of made it clear in recent years that he wants to win as much as he can, and I think Liverpool have sort of instilled in themselves now that belief where they can go and win everything, and it's very much a desire to go and win as much as they can. They're obviously chasing the record 10th this season for the Carabao Cup, and I think with the options that they've got, maybe they can rest one or two. But I think even when you say you rest one or two, you're not really getting lighter on in terms of team selection. You're getting, if not better players, who maybe need the run out, and sometimes, like we've seen tonight, they're coming out and they're putting in 7, 8 out of 10s rather than 4, 5, 6s.
Yeah, spot on. Things are looking pretty bright, and as we say, a lot of quality in that depth. I mean, you look at that bench tonight. I've said it before about our bench this season. It's Man City-esque when you look at the quality that we've got, that we can bring on to turn the tide in a game, as it did tonight. Obviously, with Szoboszlai and Núñez coming off the bench, and Szoboszlai grabbing that pretty memorable goal. If you haven't already seen it, go try and find it and watch it somewhere, because I promise you won't be disappointed. But that is all we've got time for here on the debrief tonight. So Steve, thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.